For example, the Hoteliers Association, people who have A and Bs, people who are having small motels there, how are they benefiting from this inconvenience? Well, I'm glad that we do have people on my table this morning that are going to help us dissect through that. In our Kickstarter this morning, Uganda's tourism potential on Martyrs Day, and assessing religious tourism motivational factors, and if indeed religious tourism can be a development tool for us as a country. My name is Priscilla Regina Nelwoga. Welcome to our Kickstart. Now, to just give you a backbone of this conversation, religious tourism is a steadily growing but silent tourism product niche, especially for us here in Uganda after wildlife-based tourism. However, of course, there's limited research that has been curtailed around planning and development of this sector. Findings do reveal that in spite of the limited institutional input, religious travel has organically evolved since the 1800s, and that is something to ponder about. Worshippers, visitors, and neighboring community at the religious sites concur that religious tourism can be developed if it actually is put a lot of focus on. Why? Because it generates social, religious, and economic benefits. And Uganda has a high religious tourism potential with a number of sites located in different parts of the country. Here on NTV at Uganda, we've been focusing on the different Martyrs sites across the country, all of which you have been seeing them since the week began. And therefore, it begs the question of the potential of religious tourism. Now, however, this potential is not yet fully realized due to a number of gaps. Number one gap is policy. Number two gap is planning, and of course, institutional frameworks. It is said that religion is one of the factors that does motivate people to set out on a journey, and millions of people travel towards the great pilgrimage centers to satisfy one's own religious conviction and fulfill their religious curiosity. Now, this type of tourism has such an important social and cultural characteristic upon the background of Namugongo Martyrs Day, and tourism potential is in sight. And how do we harness from it? Well, we do have those that are going to be speaking into this conversation. On my immediate left, I do have David Nsimba. He's the committee chair and chief curator with the Uganda Martyrs at 60 exhibition. Next to him, we do have Jean Byamjisha, who is the executive director with the Uganda Hotel Owners Association. And of course, we're also privileged to be having government being well represented in this conversation with the State Minister for Tourism, that is Minister Martin Mugara. All of you are most welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to allow salutations. Of course, we start with government, your salutations to the people, and then we'll continue with the conversation.
Salutations is saying morning.
Yeah.
Morning,
Not salute.
Good morning, our viewers out there.
Yeah. Okay, Jin.
Good morning, viewers, fellow Ugandans, and everybody.
Okay, all right. David?
Good morning to Ugandans and many non-Ugandans who are today flocking in the country. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start off with a question that we are running on our social media platforms, where we were asking you, what is your most fond memory of Uganda Martyrs Day at any stage of your life? And I'm going to task my guests to also share their own experiences of what Uganda Martyrs celebrations have always been like. Mr. and Minister Martin Mugara, what has your Uganda Martyrs Day looked like? What's your most fond memory?
Well, I would say, I don't know if I can attach something specific, but the whole benefit it brings to everyone from the sellers, the number of activities beyond just the faith that happen around that area. It's a whole economy, it's a whole business. So I find that exciting and interesting, and it's different every other day, and there are new stories out of each. So I can't attach one specific memory. it changes every time you visit the site, and I would encourage other Ugandans to go and see.
Yeah, yes. I do agree with that. Every year is different. It gives you different energy altogether. Jane, what's your story?
My story is different from the Honorable Minister's story. I am born and raised Catholic. My family is really staunch Catholic, and we are all named after saints. And my parents have told me that my name comes after, I'm named after Saint Jean Marie Muzei. So for me, Martyrs Day is very significant in that regard. It has always been something that we've grown up knowing, grown up acknowledging. My parents took us to Namugongo right when we were toddlers. Mm-hmm. We have been part of it. Of course, now that we grow up, it's no longer compulsory to go. But those, it has been instilled in us right from the time we were young about the saints and what they did for us and the background story. So for me, it holds quite a significant place for me.
So you would trek to Namugongo or you would drive to Namugongo?
Drive. Drive. But I think my parents tried to trek once.
Yes.
And from their feedback, I said, okay, I think I need to give this some time. But certainly drive, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Curator David, yours is through different lenses, but what has been your experience and wonder of the Martyrs Day celebrations?
It is pretty much different as well from the minister and from Jean in some regards. I'm a political historian. I always think through the ages, and looking at it as a public holiday declared in 1975 by the Idi Amin government, actually. For me, it was a great deal of public holiday. So it gives me public holiday, which is a very important day in the middle of June, with a lot of stress, going back to school and all that. But a public holiday that is loaded with another a spiritual meaning to it. It turns Namugongo into a holy ground. And as we read through history, independent Uganda was referred to as the Ireland of Africa because of its Catholic identity at independence. And Namugongo keeps on bringing me back to the Irish of Africa, Uganda. I have a fond memory of just looking through Namugongo as holy ground. Sometimes we used to perform remove of shoes. This is holy ground, mimicking Moses in the Genesis story. It's a very powerful, really goose people like raising moments for me.
That's very true, and that power has brought people from East Africa, Africa, and the rest of the world to be a part of the pilgrimage that David here speaks of. But speaking of you, David, as the committee chair for Martyrs at 60 exhibition, tell us and give us a glimpse of what that is exactly and how special it is for this particular Martyrs Day.
Oh, well, this year is very special. 2024, we are celebrating 60 years of canonization of these holy Uganda martyrs. So it's a diamond jubilee. Diamond is a very precious metal. It's a very precious gem. It's worth celebrating. 60 years is testament to the story of martyrdom. So in many respects, this year we thought that it shouldn't pass us by. And so we are curating a story of these rare men, young, most of them, less exposed, all of them lay people, who went to the sublime sacrifice of martyrdom. So we want to curate their lives, their condemnation, their execution, and their triumphant, heroic impact thereafter. We want to go back to a multimedia historical expose that is going to help so many of us who are just baby boomers who grew up in this. Most of us who are alive grew up after the canonization of 18th October was decreed. Many more Ugandans actually are less than 30. And so the story of Uganda Martyrs is always truncated, or a story that is arriving at them from very breaking beats. And so we want connecting all the dots and give a fuller, perhaps much more comprehensive story that can help them appreciate really what Martyrdom is about.
Okay, all right. My follow-up question goes to the Minister in regards to Martyrs at 60 exhibition. How has the government supported, the faith in order to come up with this? Because I know with the relics he has mentioned, there's need to provide security, first of all, but also to support them in actually market Uganda, especially from the tourism side.
The government has been greatly involved. It matters since time immemorial, from the declaration of the public holiday, and this government has carried on the same. Every year since I think 2014, we've been having a government committee as well, chaired by the Minister of Tourism and co-chaired by the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, with a number of other ministries: Defense, Security, Health, Water, KCCA, Kira Division. I mean, it's a big group. And of course they sit, they participate, they engage with the leaders of the different faiths, the Catholics, the Muslims, and the planning starts at a quite early stage. So government has been involved, even in terms of developing the infrastructure around the shrines. You know that around 2015, before the Pope came, government invested over 16 billion shillings in the development of both shrines, both Namugongo, the development of the pavilions. And each year, interestingly, through the president, he has always given a directive to finance, to provide around 3 billion to the different churches to make sure that this happens. And from the Catholics to the Anglicans, but we also have the Muslims. People don't tend to pick. And the Muslims have a shrine there. They have been celebrating every year. But we are working around something to amplify it better, to also support them better, because a number of Muslims were killed, they say probably over 100. So as government, we've been highly involved, and there is a greater master plan for the development of the Namugongo area, I mean that whole neighborhood, to ease on the challenges that you are talking about. And it's been prepared by Minister of Works, and government is ready to support to make sure that, this place is made one of the best sites. As a Minister of Tourism as well, there have been a couple of campaigns just before COVID. We are trying to see how we re-engage and put awareness out there, especially within the African countries, to market this place. But we've also mapped out what do you call it? We've done a strategy, and especially capturing the number of sites where someone can go, not necessarily just coming here and then you pray, because as a ministry under the Museums and Monuments Act, we have around, through the relationship we have with the different religious entities, we have gazetted a number of sites, around 20 across the country. We have partnerships. We will develop some to make sure that there is a lot to sell. For us, we call this faith-based tourism. So it's a big day for this country. We don't take it for granted. As government, we are committed, and we'll continue investing more resources to make sure that it brings the economic benefit for the Ugandans to benefit, foreign currency, business. I was seeing a story that was running where a lady who has been selling a few merchandise around the site, says her life has been transformed because of this day. So, and of course provision of security. And I want to thank government, because the basics have to be in place. The infrastructure that will carry people there, the security for the pilgrims who move for a couple of days. I didn't hear stories of my phone was grabbed. So in a nutshell, government has been really committed to see this a success. And I want to thank the churches as well for keeping this alive, for the different people that come participate, both from Uganda and across, to keep this going. So I think it's good for the country, and yeah, we'll continue supporting.
Okay, all right. From the government side, some good points there to note that the government does actually have an annual organizing committee geared towards Just Uganda Martyrs Day, and that is very important and paramount, because it then aids to support the other government entities that should complement this whole celebration. Then also the strategic and physical planning that the minister has mentioned about, which I know feeds into Jean and the Association for Uganda Hotel Owners Association. I know that in this time, so many people that are coming in from different parts of the country, and then the other regions also need housing, need places to stay. Let's talk about how that has actually grown, your association and its members over the course of time, focusing on faith-based pilgrimage.
Thank you. The best thing about developing a tourism product is that it's not just one person benefits, there's a huge value chain that benefits. Developing faith-based tourism, as Namugongo has grown, so has the commerce around the place grown. It has empowered many people, not just the churches, not just our image as a country, not just the marketing of the country, but the people around the place. And this is what I'm most proud of in tourism. In my village, we have a saying that the worst thing somebody can have is a poor neighbor. And that's what we believe in tourism, that you don't just empower yourself, you don't just grow yourself. If you want to really be successful, you have got to grow the people around you. That's what Namugongo has done. We all remember when we started going to Namugongo as toddlers without even knowing the significance of the day. The place was muddy, it was a bad road, there was a lot of dust. There was no place to even go for a short call. There was no place to have a decent meal. And we've seen this growing over the years. The road has been made. There's very good accommodation for each budget. You know, you've got the good accommodation, which is a bit high end for people who want to sleep more comfortably. You've got the budget accommodation. You've even got people renting out their homes, you know, to people who want to have the home feeling. You've not just through Airbnb, but just people who stay around. People have deliberately built homes around Namugongo because they know in these 2 weeks, before and after the event, they can be able to make money that can be able to take them through the rest of the year. And we are talking about billions of shillings, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands. Billions of shillings that comes through into our economy, that is all injected into the economy as a result of this day. So for me, I'm very proud to see how much it has grown. I'm very proud to see even the area, how it was renovated, how beautiful it looks. I'm proud to see how the international recognition that it has gotten. I'm proud every time we hear about delegations of people coming in from Nigeria, from Kenya, from even Europe to come to be able to. And I remember not too long ago when the Pope came, and this, I think I attended that event because it was, UTB was also part of the organizers. And for me as a Catholic, that was really not only a very humbling experience, but also one of pride. You know, to be able to welcome the Pope, everybody who knows about, you know, who is religious, who believes in something, knows the significance of an event like that. So it was very exciting to be able to see that Uganda, my country, my home, could be able to host such an event. We had the world press right here with us. We were on CNN. Everything was, you know, amplified into the world press. So it gives me pride to see Namugongo growing, to see the numbers growing, but it also gives us an opportunity as private sector, as businessmen. We need to be able to reorganize that place a lot more. We need to stop the inconvenience that it brings to the neighbors, you know, because we need the local community buy-in. If now there is traffic jam, if traffic is being diverted, if kids are getting late to go for school, it's happening during the school term, if people are getting late for work, we need now to be able to see how we can sit with government and with other partners, whether donors or development partners, to see how we can be able to expand. This has been done. You travel to Europe, you travel to any of these religious sites, there is all this traffic that has very little impact on inconveniencing the local communities. And I think now going forward into the next 60 years, we need to be able to see how we can make Namugongo work, not just for the religious enthusiasts, but also for the people around, so that they can also be able to appreciate and participate in the significance of the day.
Okay, because unlike other forms of tourism, it's a seasonal tourism.
It's a seasonal tourism.
That's something we have to think about.
Yeah.
So the communities are important, so that after the season is done and dusted, they do actually continue on with the harnessing and development of the area code. David, turning to you, with the Martyrs at 60 exhibition, how do you intend to actually carry it out? How will people be enjoying it? And then what do you hope to be the aftermath effects, even away from Uganda Martyrs Day?
Okay. Uganda Martyrs Day is ushering us into what we'll call the arc of celebrations. We are moving progressively away from just focusing on these nodal points of 3rd June as a merry-go-round moment, and then back to our business. The Martyrs are too serious a matter to be left to 3rd June alone. That's the point we are trying to make, that, you know, there is Martyrs Day, which is very essential and central to the celebration. Takes place at Namugongo. hence the centrality of Namugongo. But beyond that now, there is a whole calendar, particularly for this year, and perhaps moving forward, that will be starting the June through October celebration. You know, there is June, which is 3rd, declared as Martyrs Day, public holiday in Uganda, but there is also 18th of October, which is the day when they were canonized as saints of the Catholic Church. So connecting June to October and making it now a big deal for people like Jean, for people like our colleague minister here, that this is actually creating an entire revolving moment that will go a minimum of 4 months down the lane of celebrating the Uganda Martyrs. So people gather to Namugongo on the 3rd June. There is exaltation of the cross on 14th of September, a very important day in the ecclesial calendar. There is canonization commemoration in October, and then there is 27th of November, which is the day when the first martyr was killed, and we close it there. So the exhibition comes in as another moment in the arc of celebration. This year we are opening it up to the general public in September. It is opening on the 14th actually of September, given the significance of that date in the church calendar. And it's going to run up to 31st of October, with the highlights on the 18th of October as the D-Day of their canonization. We are interested in plugging in these other moments beyond 3rd June. So the exhibition is really about bringing in now relics, photographs, audiovisual material, and any other memorabilia that can help us curate a very complicated and not less controversial story about these matters, and plug it into this very month, connecting June to October and beyond.
Okay. We do know of a relic that is at the Namugongo Martyrs Shrine, but we'll talk into that later on. Turning back to the Honorable Minister, as you called it, faith-based tourism. It could be religious, spiritual, sacred, or other forms of faith that people practice. But it's a type of tourism with two main subsets. You do have the pilgrimage, which is the traveling for religious purposes or spiritual purposes, and there's also the viewing of monuments, relics, and historical items that can also be tapped into. So for us as a Ugandan, we do have about 3 million visitors that are expected just in Namugongo, and that's both local and international visitors. And it begs the question, how can this be transformed into an opportunity for the tourism sector?
Thank you so much. It's good you talk about the figures, the estimation that we have. And I think this year we'll do better working with the churches. We will have a more specific statistic in terms of visitation for the entire period of the Martyrs activities, starting I think from May towards. It's good now. There's going to be an extension. So this is a big number of people really, with quite a number of foreigners. You see, it doesn't matter whether they come from within the country, but they are coming from a certain area, bringing in some money from Porto, from Nebi, and spending it in Kampala. So there is some bit of benefit going forward. So we take this seriously, and we have supported the churches, like we've said. They prefer to call it pilgrimage, or people who come to do pilgrimage here. But for us, that's not the issue. For us, we believe any person who travels anywhere beyond a certain period of time, for us, will term as a tourist. So we'll enable the church. In the long run, we all make the money, the Ugandans, going forward. We have had a partnership, for instance, with the Anglican Church already, and I pray, and I think that's where the Catholic Church is going, where they have built a museum, and they have kept the stories, a number of artifacts there. I think it would be a good direction going forward with the Catholic Church as well. So this story is told. But like I earlier said as well, we have been able to, I think last year, we've been able to map out a Martyrs trail across the country. So that, because, I mean, these stories start from somewhere, the areas in Katosa and the rest, but also adding the other areas of interest like the Hanningtons and all this, to make this a whole cocktail of activity. So when someone comes, he can stay longer, spend more, but also go back maybe like she said, the staunch Catholic, a little bit more rejuvenated, or with the much more holiness, whichever it is. So we see this as a big tourism opportunity. We'll continue investing in government. We'll continue working closely with the church. And I want to thank the central government, especially the president, who is even going to attend himself this year, as I had. And you can see how much attachment that we all have towards this in terms of generating revenue, but also growing the faith of the Ugandans going forward.
Okay, all right. We did have a story on the museum that you speak of, and later on in the program, I asked my producer to find me that story so that we can relate to our audience. Saint Jean.
Exactly.
Yes.
That should be your rightful. But you have to canonize it in October. Okay, all right. Earlier on we were speaking, and I was of the question, have you actually had pilgrimage of your own outside Uganda? And you talked about how you have had the privilege of going to the Vatican and Rome. Tell us about that experience from a personal level. Starting from leaving Uganda.
It's one of the best holidays that I've ever had, because, like I said, as a practicing Catholic, it held a lot of significance for me. I've always seen people going on pilgrimages and wondering what that means. And there is a shift in somebody when you visit some, and I think that's why you see very many Muslims, always want to go to Mecca, because the moment you do, you come back completely different. And somebody said, all of us wake up every day because of hope. This world moves on hope. The audacity of hope is what keeps us going every day. And 90% of hope is actually in belief in something better. If you're going through a hard time, you believe and you hope that it will get better, and you pray to whoever it is that you pray to. But you have that other place that you go to hoping that things will get better. And so when you do actually get to visit some of these holy places, whoever you are, you never come back the same. It changes something within you. For you to be able to see, I remember when we went to Rome, I went to the Vatican, we were talking about, hey, these are some of the roads on which many of the saints have walked, on which many of the holy people have walked. Can you imagine we are walking in the same footsteps with some of the great holy of holies that we have, we've read about, we've seen on TV, we've heard about, and we've been here. And actually being able to have Mass at the Vatican, for me it was a very unique experience, which is why I am always very excited about Martyrs Day. I completely understand why somebody would trek 400 kilometers when you're 8 years old, because of that audacity of hope, because of the belief in something that is greater than you, because of the belief that we are not alone. I am not alone. And that's what keeps us moving. That's what keeps us sane. That's what keeps us grounded. That's what keeps the world moving. And for most people, and I think for me, being a Ugandan, that's one of the things I'm still very, very proud of, that we are not yet too developed to start, questioning our religious beliefs. It still keeps us grounded, and it still keeps us, humble in one way or another, for us to be able to move on. So that experience for me was completely amazing, completely life-changing, and it is something that I would like to encourage anybody who can, not just to go to the Vatican, but to try and see how you can go to Namgongo, the Anglican shrine, the Muslim shrine, so that you can be able to have that experience. It's completely life-changing.
Okay, all right. And from that particular point, having had your personal experience, and now with the position that you do hold today, how and what things do you feel as a country we need to adopt? What strategies do we need to employ in order to create that same aurora for not just you and a few million people, but the potential of catching over 50 million people to a country in the next year?
You did mention in your opening remarks about how now religious tourism is the second income earner in terms of bringing in the tourism dollars in Uganda. The Honorable Minister has also mentioned we expect about 3 million tourists, whether they are domestic or international, coming into our country, into our town, Kampala City, for this event. So certainly this is not one, like David has said, this should not be a one-day event. This is something. And again, we should benchmark, we should have benchmarked, or we should be able to look at the other countries which have done this, whereby they have year-round activities. It should not just be a one-day event that brings a particular town to a standstill, to a halt. People will not be able to leave their homes on Monday, etc. But we should now see as a country, as the Ministry of Tourism, how we can plan this for this to be a year-long activity. How do we draft a Martyrs trail that has got different days of significance, so that if I can't make it on the 3rd of June, I can make it on the 18th of September, I can make it on the 18th of October, and still have the same experience as somebody who came on the 3rd of June. How then do we look at also improving security? Because in tourism, it takes just one event and then we are back 5 years.
Yes.
So we need to be able to look at security. We need to also be able to look at the facilities. I cannot imagine the toilet facilities after the 3rd of June in the area around. I cannot imagine the plastics, you know, that are going to be filling all those trenches. How are we able to... Waste management, exactly. How can we be able to make sure that we put systems in place that we do not create a lot of impact in this place and then start repelling the tourists, start repelling the day for people who have invested in that area. So we need to see how we can streamline it, get a Martyrs trail, get different dates of significance, and market each and every one of them so that it's not just one day. It can be a year-long event.
Honorable Minister, marketing has come up already just by general picture for the tourism sector by and large. Marketing has been realized as a very significant tool to cause the industry boom beyond the potential that it has already given us. And even the recoveries post-COVID-19 are quite hopeful and promising. And so it begs the question, how do we adopt marketing to specifically target faith-based tourism?
Thank you, and I can see your running images of the museum, and I think one of the issues really is, first of all, to develop the products that will encourage people to come, and that's why we are saying that as a ministry we've gazetted around 20 sites that we intend to develop, not just to gazette, including the Namugongo itself is a gazetted site. Going forward, I don't think anyone can touch it as government. Beyond just the religious side, but also as government, we say this is a protected site. It's and there's a lot of story about it, and thank God there are now good people, the curators that are well trained, that can tell these stories. We have a partnership with the museums department that is also giving technical guidance to develop the products, but to sell the stories of these products going forward. I know that, for instance, the Pope's first visit to Africa, I think around 1969, was to Uganda and to Namugongo. And these are things that we can continue talking about. So our commitment is to develop the products. We've talked about development of the infrastructure, providing the security, but also going forward. And we've been having this as one of our priorities going forward, I would say, in a different corner, because we've not gotten the support yet. But we started with the Martyrs Trail that we've fully mapped. But now we'll see how we go out there, probably, I think, working with the private sector and the churches, because we know where most of these people come from. I mean, the likes of Nigeria, so that we can put a presence there and do some marketing, even if it's for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Thank God now, going forward, we are, as a ministry and government, we have deliberately put money in all our embassies across the world, actually. Each of them has gotten money, including the ones in Africa. So we'll be pushing the agenda to market faith-based tourism to these areas. But also, like I said, most importantly, develop the product so that if someone comes here, they can spend 8 days with the full package. Every day you have something to do. So we have the master plan, we have the areas gazetted, and want to thank the church for the support, and we'll continue working with them to make sure that we realize even a bigger number and throw out there.
Okay, all right. Of course, we do have David here coming from the Catholic side. Jean is coming from the Catholic side, but worry not, even the Anglican side is going to be represented. We do have Stephen Bite, who is on ground, and he's going to give us the Anglican side of these conversations. But as he prepares for that, at the Uganda Martyrs Shrine in Namgongo, there is a relic, bone of St. Charles Ranga in a glass attached to the front of a wood altar there. And so it begs the question, first of all, what is a relic? And how important is some of these elements? Because I remember when the tooth of a former leader in the Democratic Republic of Congo was being returned, it was such a huge African attention, you know? And so when we look at that from a religious perspective, what is the potential of such things, especially as a curator, for us to build up on what the minister has said, the trails and all these different product developments that are actually important for on national level, government level, to take up on and use as marketing tools?
Well, wow, that's a very pregnant question. Look, let me start by saying that relics are so significant in the worship, particularly in Christian worship. To put squarely that, and even all the more significant in Catholic pastoral and evangelizing missions. So because of the significance of the relics, which are basically bodily remains of a person that has either been eulogized for their life, and eulogy and veneration starts all the way from being declared venerated. You see, the Uganda Martyrs were declared venerated people by Pope Pius X on the 14th of October, 1912. And then they were beatified by Pope Benedict XVI on the 6th of June, actually, which is also interesting to put into the ark, 1920. And then they canonized by Paul VI on the 18th of October. So you can see that that whole process makes their bodily remains extraordinary, going through the process of veneration to beatification to canonization. So whatever is connected to the body of those who have been either canonized as saints of the church make them special, because as saints, their bodily remains become part and parcel of an entire architecture of holiness, and through which miracles are not only claimed but also performed and verified. So we are talking about first order relics. Those are directly connected to the bodies of those martyrs. It can be either a bodily remain or something that was attached to the body. We have now a few remaining first order relics that are in the custody of the Missionaries of Africa. Missionaries of Africa, as the custodian of the story of martyrdom in this country, have exclusively held those relics since 1920, and thereafter unseen to date. What are those? We have the jawbone of St. Charles Wanga. I saw that. I went to the Missionaries of Africa house, 6 feet down the cave. You have to take a lift and go down the cave where they're kept. We're talking about the cross from the Muvule tree on which Saint Mulumba, Matia Mulumba, was tied up and dismembered, left in agony for 2 days. That Muvule tree was made, a cross was made out of that Muvule tree. There is a body of which was attached there. We're talking about the 2 chains that fettered the feet of Saint Balikudembe and Saint Mugaga, going unprotestingly from Mengo all the way to Namugongo. Those chains still exist. I saw them. We had the whole business of bringing those first order relics here. So you can imagine the significance and the aura of what the exhibition will bring just because of that. So that in itself makes the story of that amplifies, I would say, the faith-based tourism potential, because not just for believers per se, not just for believers, even for non-believers. That you know, the FEMA as well is there. That you can have a bodily remain of a human whose extraordinary life goes beyond your imagination, whether in secular terms or spiritual terms. That young folks who were exposed to less than a year of catechism could go ahead and learn to give to God what is God's and to Caesar what is Caesar's, and passed on a century ago, right, but whose powerful impact is still reverberating today. That itself is powerful. Yeah. So it amplifies the whole story about faith-based tourism, that we do not have those relics in our midst here. Of course, those are the first order relics. We do have some other part of the relics that we talked about on the altar of Namugongo, right at the spot where Charles Lwanga was killed. We just have that small part. But if we can organize ourselves better, we will have a much more capacity to hold back.
You have left our jaws dropping. You know, the minister said, "Oh, now why don't we have this in Uganda?" Jane here is thinking, "I can use that to bring in more people in this country as a tourism aspect." And of course, we also do have Stephen Bide, who is on ground, and he's speaking to the spokesperson of the organizing committee for the Anglican Church of Uganda, and that is Mr. Sadiq Adams. Of course, you do have them at the Anglican site, where they're also going to be giving us their perspective on the power of faith-based tourism. Right, thank you so much, Stephen Bide, for having given us the update on the Anglican side as they prepare. Also, it's the Rwenzori Diocese that is doing the organization for the Anglican Church. And David here is showing us some beautiful relics and artifacts for some of the saints. Which one is that you have shown her? Let me see. Jawbone of?
The jawbones of Kaloli Lwanga.
Wow, the jawbones of Lwanga. Wow. That is definitely breathtaking to see. And we're just seeing it from, you know, from a phone. Imagine how much more if you had this experience for yourself.
I know.
In class.
All of us are very amused, and thankfully, as chair committee for the exhibition, David here and you know, the committee is going to be bringing these things to us live in September, right? Starting September. Okay, now starting September, we'll be having the opportunity to see some of these remains of some of these saints in reality, live, with your own bare eyes. You can't touch, but the whole experience has left each one of us, you know, transformed in mindset on how different people on this table can do their very best to support such in terms of faith-based tourism. But David, you were also saying that by far on the African continent, Uganda Martyrs Day pilgrimage is the second biggest and largest pilgrimage on the African continent. Are you sure about that?
Well, we have, on this continent, we have the Senegalese Touba pilgrimage. It's a trek to the Great Mosque of Touba, famously known as the Grand Magal. Grand Magal is statistically the largest pilgrimage event on the continent. It brings all the Sufi brotherhood in the entire Sahel belt to a very tiny central town of Senegal called Touba. 4 million. The numbers pale in comparison to many other pilgrimages you can think of. It dwarfs the Hajj. The Grand Magal dwarfs the Hajj in terms of statistics. Annually, Muslims from outside of the Ummah go to Mecca for the Hajj. We're talking about 2.5 million. Those who go to the Grand Mosque of Touba, are in 4 million. Folks park for 2 days in the queue to wait for the entrance in the mosque. So significant that there are 2 days of festivities as you await your turn to enter to the mosque. The mosque is swept for a week long by the Brotherhood. The volume, I was reading just early this morning, the volume of trade, demand from transportation, food, festive clothing, and cell phone cards. It balloons the trade volumes 3 times the normal monthly average.
Okay, let's bring that back to Uganda Martyrs.
I'm coming there.
Yeah.
So much so that Touba, in the democratic dispensation of Senegal, is led by a caliphate. It is a whole caliphate. It's so special that because of its faith-based potential of holding that pilgrimage, the city of Touba itself has a caliph that reigns over with the Sharia law there. That tells you what we are talking about. Second to the Grand Magal is the Namugongo pilgrimage. Last year's organizers told us that the numbers were in 3 million. It's just shy of 1 million to the biggest pilgrimage on the continent. Whereas Senegal's Touba is a pivotal town that's galvanized the entire Sahel. Our Namugongo is still a one-day story. We are not even yet to fully realize, and yet we hold the second largest movement on this continent.
With organic marketing, we are having big numbers, 3 million. How much more if we were intentional?
How much more
from,
if we are
from the
intentional?
Touba experience, what would you advise we then do from a religious side and then from a government side?
Well, from the religious side, there is need for really being intentional about how do we move a narrative toward making Namugongo, and Namugongo in its grand space, not just the small Namugongo as a geographical area, making Namugongo with all its connections. When we talk about Namugongo, we talk about Munyonyo. When we talk about Namugongo, we talk about Old Kampala, we talk about Mitiana, we talk about Mwenge in Toro, we talk about Bunyoro, we talk about Budu, we talk about up to Bukoma. How do we bring that whole place into a holy ground?
Yeah.
So declaring that whole Namugongo a holy ground, religiously, that will make us move an important step. Okay. That it's not just an habitual place, it's not just a recreational center, it's a holy ground. Okay. That it goes in tandem with religiously demarcating it and gazetting it on those terms. Okay. Is a big potential.
The Minister will speak into gazetting because earlier on in your submissions you made point of that. But in regards to cleaning up the image of Namugongo, Jean, how do we clean up the image in order to fit and tilt towards what happens in Touba?
We have seen the potential that Namugongo has. The numbers that we are talking about, 3 million, both visible and even on paper, the amount of money that comes into the economy. We have seen this. But like David has said, a lot of this has been haphazard. You know, somebody putting up a stall there to sell muchomo and etc. So now we need to start being deliberate towards developing Namugongo. We need to be deliberate towards marketing Namugongo. And like David has said, we need people with David's kind of experience and knowledge and exposure to be able to guide the policy makers on how they can be able to do this. We are all seated here completely in awe of the knowledge bank that he is. This is something that now the government needs to latch on and be able to develop into deliberately a marketing strategy just for religious tourism, just for Namugongo, a marketing strategy even for other religious tourism sites across the country. There is many of them which are happening. And like David has also said, it shouldn't just be a one-day event that creates some chaos in our city and after that it's done and we have 1 or 2 weeks of cleaning up. It should be an all-year-round event where people can come on pilgrimages, where people have got clean facilities, clean bathrooms, clean refreshment areas, where the traffic flow is also something that is deliberately made, entry and exits, where every person who is going to sell there gets a license, you know? Why are people selling everything they can pick out, you know, whether it's plastics, whether it is, you know, meat which has not been cleared by, you know, the Bureau of Standards and all of that. Now, it should be deliberate. The service providers should all have uniforms and licenses. There should be a movement plan. There should be an investment plan. Everybody now with money, because of trying to tap into the day, has built. So we have got every kind of haphazard accommodation facility, restaurant facility. We need now to be deliberate.
And no one is giving us the VIP experience.
Exactly. But also we need to have a catalog whereby we can then, whoever is going there has got the information. Like I said, when you go on these pilgrimages, you have your information pack. Do you want to go to a restaurant? These are the ones which are around.
Right.
Do you want to go for refreshment?
The ones that have been approved and
exactly approved. So there needs now to be a deliberate, because we are literally sitting on a gold mine that we should now start investing in.
Okay, Chorom on Twitter, who responds to a question of their most memorable part of Uganda Martyrs Day. For them, the reference is to Jipiri and Labongo. And he says Jipiri and Labongo deserve a museum at least. That's the best, because to Chorom they are martyrs, which speaks into something that he had mentioned, gazetting some of these faith-based sites. Something you had a comment towards that, Honorable Minister, but also in response to what has been submitted by your two colleagues here on the side of government as we close this conversation.
Yes,
where do we go from here?
I'll speak just two things as we conclude. And the first one is what David was saying about what is in Rome, and thank God it will be here for exhibition. Unfortunately, we can't retain it, but the plan should be ongoing. We have made some success in June. We'll be inviting you. We'll be getting some artifacts from the Cambridge University in London. Through our engagement with the UK government, we'll be getting some artifacts from Kenya, around 2,000. So this is the beginning of the negotiation, and I believe that going forward we should be able to have a good museum with the Catholic Church, and we'll support them and have this part of history back into our country. But now, you talk about marketing, and I said this a couple of times, because in Uganda, we joke a lot. Sometimes say maybe it is because of the freedom, because now we have a very important event bringing in 3 million people. It happens once a year. And someone putting on a red beret is in massacre running around, you know, depicting a different image of the country. And of course, you've given him the media platform too. So when someone mistakenly or deliberately just wants to watch something about Namugongo and the beauty, there is something that is coming in about a small rally in a village of a constituency or something like that. And that is where we make the problem most of the time as Uganda. That's where the issue is. And that's why we keep saying that there should be this drive beyond the political divide, what color I stand for, and look at the bigger interest of the country going forward. So yes, we'll do our best as government, but if the Ugandans do not take interest in looking at this country beyond themselves and interest, we will always have these challenges. And that's why we keep saying that the responsibility of putting out the image of this country is a responsibility of every Ugandan. Everyone has a Twitter account, everyone has a TikTok, and everyone chooses to send whatever they need to send. I think let's choose I would say, to be honest, of course, my boss, the president, has a different perspective, with all due respect. But if I was running government, I would say, around this time, there shouldn't be a campaign. Wait until it's done. Then you can run around the country, so that we communicate one clear message about Destination Uganda, about what Namugongo is about, and about what this big story and the potential is all about. So in a nutshell, I thought I'd conclude that.
All right, Honorable Minister, thank you so much. Jean, who is Executive Director with the Uganda Hotel Owners Association, thank you so much for your voice. And also David Nsimba, who is the chair for the committee that is putting together the Martyrs at 60 exhibition. Worth. From the pictures I have seen, I'm definitely going to be the first on that line. Do I have to make 2 days lining up? Yes, I will, because of what I have seen is in their possession, and yet as a Ugandan, my faith has been lifted a little bit higher
I'm
from
glad.
this conversation. So
But
thank
if I
you
may
so
just say
much.
maybe one more thing.
Yes.
Just to pick up on that, to pick up on just what our colleague Honorable Martin has just said. You know, the Martyrs give us 3 interesting gifts here in this country. I mean, religiously, the Martyrs connect Uganda.
What are the gifts?
Internationally, Uganda is connected to the Holy See and to many other places because of the Martyrs.
All right. Well, that one more information from David in person. You can check him out on social media platforms. But as we crown this, of course, on social media, at Eugene, je ne sais quoi, amazing, great love for God. This should push us to change our lives. And then you also do have Big Mac, who is saying it's his birthday. Happy birthday to you, Big Mac. And Henry256 on Twitter says the most memorable thing about Uganda Martyrs Day celebrations is pork. Of course, you do have the State Minister for Energy, Fiona Nyamtoro, who also made pilgrimage with some of the teams from Nebi, saying, for the joy of the Lord is her strength into the celebrations. May that also be your strength. And we wish you the very best for the rest of the day here morning at NTV. Goodbye.